I used to believe that dedication would eventually be rewarded. It was a quiet faith, something I carried like an unspoken promise between me and the world. My name is Hannah, and for as long as I could remember, my life revolved around one thing: my family. I worked 2 jobs: mornings at a coffee shop where I perfected lattes with precision, evenings as a part-time bookkeeper, crunching numbers late into the night. Every dollar I earned seemed destined not for myself, but for others: for my aging parents in Salem, Oregon, who needed help paying their mortgage, for repairs on the red brick house they called home, but which felt more like mine, and for Samantha, my younger sister, whose carefree existence I often envied yet supported without question. That house, it wasn't just for walls and a roof. It was a second skin, a monument to everything I had sacrificed. Nestled in the heart of Salem, it stood tall with its weathered bricks and ivy-lined porch. Each tile in the kitchen bore my fingerprints from when I replaced them years ago. The roof? I patched it during a snowstorm so fierce that even the squirrels stayed indoors. Plumbing disasters? I learned how to fix those too, hands trembling under freezing water while my mother fretted about calling a professional. But there was never enough money for professionals, not when every cent went toward keeping us afloat. It wasn't easy, but I told myself it was worth it. After all, this was family. And family meant sacrifice, right? One ordinary Saturday afternoon, I stopped by the house, just as I always did. Mom greeted me with her usual warm smile before disappearing into the backyard to tend to her orchids. She handed me a messy stack of papers before leaving, asking casually if I could sort through them. Bills, tax forms, insurance documents, it was nothing new. Sitting at the dining table, I sifted through the clutter until my eyes landed on something unusual. A thick cream-colored envelope lay buried beneath utility notices and bank statements. Its label read estate plan, and in bold black letters. My stomach clenched. I hesitated, staring at it longer than necessary. Wasn't curiosity what got Pandora into trouble? But no, I reasoned, this wasn't about prying. I wanted to make sure everything was in order. Someone had to worry about these things, didn't they? That someone had always been me, the invisible glue holding our fragile family together. With trembling fingers, I opened the envelope. Page after page detailed assets, distributions, final wishes. My chest tightened as I flipped to the section listing beneficiaries. Everything: the house, over $450,000 in savings, the SUV. Even Mom's wedding ring was clearly stated to go to Samantha. Not a single mention of me beyond the vague line, "We love both our daughters." The roof spun. The words blurred before my eyes, but their meaning cut sharper than glass. Every memory came rushing back: the endless paychecks, the sleepless nights worrying about deadlines, the countless trips to hardware stores or pharmacies. All those moments felt like they'd been erased, invalidated by that cold, printed sentence. "Hannah!" My mom's voice startled me. She stood in the doorway, her hands dusted with soil from her plans. "Did you find the statement?" I turned slowly, will in hand, my voice unnervingly calm. "Mom, is this real?" She froze, her gaze flickering to the document in my grip. "Oh, Hannah?" Her voice trailed off, unsure. "What does this mean?" I interrupted, each word slicing through the air like a blade. "A lifetime of caring for you and Dad, and I'm written off like I never existed?" Dad entered then, coffee mug in hand, his expression unreadable. He sighed heavily, as though commenting on the weather. "You don't need to react like this, Hannah. You're doing fine. Samantha, she's still figuring things out." I laughed, humorless and dry. "Figuring things out? She's 30. She changes jobs every 3 months, lives off YouTube tutorials, and can't even pay her phone bill. I'm the one who paid your mortgage for the last 3 years. The one who fixed the roof last winter. The one who's kept this house standing dollar by dollar." Mom stepped forward, placing a hand over mine. "Don't overthink it. I just wanted your sister to feel secure." I pulled away, nodding slightly, my gaze ice cold. "Secure? And what about me? The only one who's kept this place standing all these years?" They said nothing. I placed the will back on the table, feeling like I'd returned a declaration of war. Without another word, I walked to the door, ignoring the weight of their silence behind me. No one called out. For the first time in years, I didn't feel hurt. I felt empty, hollow, chilled to the bone. I didn't return to that house after discovering the will. 2 weeks passed in silence, no calls, no messages, as if I had never existed in their world. Part of me waited, foolishly hoping they'd reach out with some shred of conscience. An apology perhaps, or at least an explanation. Instead, what I got was a text from Dad on a Monday morning. "Hannah, this month's mortgage is due. Can you transfer it soon? Deadline's Friday." I stared at the message, my hands trembling slightly. It wasn't just the audacity, it was the sheer lack of acknowledgement, like nothing had changed. No mention of what happened. No asking how I was doing. Just a demand, blunt and emotionless, as though I were their default ATM. I typed back, each word deliberate, cold as ice. I think Samantha can handle it. That house is hers now, right? Then I set my phone down and didn't wait for a reply. 10 minutes later, the screen lit up again. This time, it was Mom. Hannah, don't do this. We need to talk. I didn't answer. I wasn't sad anymore. I wasn't even angry. Just a kind of ruthless clarity had taken the place of every fragile hope I once held. For years, I believed my sacrifices would be acknowledged. I was wrong. And I had no interest in playing savior anymore. 3 days later, another message came from Samantha. You're overreacting. Mom and Dad didn't mean it like that. You've always been independent and I'm just not. You know that. I read her words, each one dripping with self-pity and entitlement. My fingers hovered over the keyboard before I began typing slowly, deliberately cutting through her fade. Then prove you deserve what you've been given. Start by paying the mortgage. No response. Another week passed in silence. Then, one Monday morning while I was sipping coffee in my kitchen, my phone buzzed a transfer request for exactly $2,900 from my mom. No message, just a cold withdrawal request. As emotionless as the way they'd written me out of everything, I hit decline without hesitation. Minutes later, the phone rang. It was Mom. I let it ring 4 times before declining the call. A text followed immediately. Hannah, I know you saw it. Why did you decline? I closed my eyes, took a deep breath and replied because it's no longer my responsibility. Ask Samantha. For the first time in my life, I felt like I had control. I wasn't the one scrambling to fix cracks I didn't create. I wasn't sacrificing my entire youth to patch up other people's failures. That night, I called the bank and requested my name be removed from the joint account used for the mortgage. I also contacted the utility companies and canceled all the auto payments I'd been secretly handling for years. Deleting the bill reminders on my phone felt like a small ceremony, marking the end of my role in their household. But they weren't done yet. 3 days later, Samantha texted again. Are you kidding me right now? The power's about to be shut off. Are you really going to let that happen to our family? I stared at her message, rereading it over and over. The family she was talking about was the same one that treated me like an outsider. Like a walking wallet. I replied with one sentence. Family is about fairness and respect. Not using someone until they're no longer useful. Silence. I didn't hear anything for several more days. Then, early one morning, a call came from an unexpected number. It was Mrs. Lorraine, the neighbor who lived next to my parents for over 20 years. Your mom asked if I knew anyone selling houses, she said. I think they're not managing well anymore. I thanked her and hung up. I didn't feel smug. I didn't smile. But I didn't cry either. I just sat by the window, watching sunlight spill through the trees out front, and realized something. For the first time in my life, I wasn't being crushed by duty or guilt. I had chosen to step out of the cycle, and I wasn't going back. The first message came on Monday morning from Mr. Walter, the same neighbor. Hannah, are your parents okay? Denise asked what day it was. She thought she got the date wrong, but she just got a letter from the bank. It clearly says notice of foreclosure. I stared at the screen. So it had happened. Faster than I expected. For weeks since I stopped all support. For weeks for the house I once kept from falling apart to finally start collapsing. An hour later, my mom called. I didn't answer. A message followed right after the ring. Hannah, please. We really need you right now. It's serious. I read it, then set the phone down like it had nothing to do with me. But in truth, my chest still felt heavy. I had once thought this moment would bring some twisted sense of satisfaction. But it didn't, only a hollow aching fatigue. Maybe because I was too used to cleaning up after others. I didn't reply. 2 days later, for the first time in weeks, Samantha showed up at my door. She stood there in a wrinkled hoodie. No makeup, clutching a messy stack of documents. Her eyes gave away the panic. I just need 5 minutes, she said, breathless. Just 5 minutes, Hannah. I crossed my arms, blocking the doorway, not a single ounce of sympathy in my eyes. You here to ask for money? Not money, she blurted out, her voice shaky. I need your help talking to the bank. I don't understand the terms they're using. I am overwhelmed. What about the inheritance you got? I asked, my tone casual as if commenting on the weather. She looked down and mumbled, it's tied up in an investment portfolio. If I withdraw now, there's a penalty. I didn't think it would spiral this fast. I raised an eyebrow. Yet you signed for everything without hesitation. I thought Mom and Dad had it under control. They said it was all set. I didn't think, exactly. You didn't think. Like always. Samantha fell silent. I stepped out and pulled the door closed behind me. This is a lesson you need to learn, I said, my voice steady. Everyone stumbles. But no one grows if someone's always there to catch them. You're really going to let them lose the house? She whispered, her voice cracking. I'm not letting anything happen, I replied, my gaze unwavering. They made their choice. Now they live with it. I turned away, leaving Samantha standing alone in the building's hallway. I thought I had reached the end of their arsenal. I believed that after Samantha's visit, they'd finally accept my refusal and start taking responsibility for their own lives. But I was wrong, so painfully wrong. A week later, Olivia, a coworker at the arts center, approached me during lunch break. Her face was pale, her tone urgent. Hannah, are you on Facebook? You should check your mom's page. She's posting some unbelievable stuff. My hand trembled slightly as I typed Denise Baker into the search bar. Her timeline was a mess of emotional posts, flower photos, and inspirational quotes. But what made my blood run cold was one standout post with a picture of her old house attached. The caption read, "It's heartbreaking when your own daughter turns her back on family, abandoning sick and aging parents, refusing to help in our time of need after everything we sacrificed for her." Over 80 shares. Hundreds of comments flooded beneath its sympathy for her plight, comfort for her struggles, and harsh judgment for the ungrateful child who had walked away. My stomach churned as I scrolled further. Another post from Dad appeared. "We thought Hannah was someone who loved her family, but when we needed her most, she walked away without a word. The house is about to be taken, and she acts like nothing's happening." But the final blow came from Samantha. Her post dripped with mockery. "Some people are only kind when they're above you, looking down. But when family asks them to step down and help, they choose silence. That's today's version of strong, I guess." I gripped my phone tightly, my knuckles white. I wasn't angry, not really. I wasn't even shocked. What I felt was exhaustion. Exhaustion from years of carrying their burdens. Exhaustion from being treated as disposable once I stopped playing their game. When guilt no longer worked, they turned to public shaming. They wanted to drag my name through the mud, hoping I'd crumble under societal pressure. But they forgot one thing: I wasn't silent anymore. That night, I opened my laptop and logged into Facebook, an account I rarely used. I stared at the blank status box, my fingers hovering over the keyboard. Then I began typing, not out of anger, but out of clarity. Every word poured out like water breaking through a dam. Post by Hannah to my friends, acquaintances, and anyone following this story. My family is sharing a one-sided narrative. So, to be fair, here's the truth from my side. Attached is a photo of the will, where my parents left everything to my sister Samantha. Not a single mention of me beyond vague words. Included are snapshots of mortgage payments, utility bills, insurance, all under my name. I've spent nearly a decade financially supporting the household while juggling 2 jobs. Here's the last text message I received from my mom asking for $2,900 to save the house, a house that apparently doesn't belong to me. My silence wasn't consent. I was just waiting for the right moment to tell the truth. That moment is now. Within 10 minutes, the first comment appeared. "Hannah, you seriously did all of this? I can't believe it." An old friend chimed in. "You're one of the kindest people I know. Don't let anyone make you doubt that." Then, one by one, people started sharing my post. Some who knew my parents expressed surprise. "I always thought Samantha lived pretty recklessly. Now it makes sense." Others voiced outrage. "No one should be taken advantage of like that, especially not by their own family." The post spread like wildfire, not because it was sensational, but because it resonated. People saw the receipts, the evidence, and the undeniable truth behind my words. 2 days later, Mom took down all her posts. Dad deactivated his account entirely. Samantha changed her profile picture to a black and white flower, the dramatic move she always made. When things slipped out of her control, I didn't respond. I didn't post anything else. I simply sat in my apartment, listening to the rain tap softly against the window. For the first time, I felt justice on my side. I didn't need an apology. I didn't need them to bow their heads in shame. I just needed them to stop, and it seemed, finally, they understood that I wasn't someone they could manipulate anymore. One post. That's all it took to end the years I'd been forced into silence. And now, I was writing the next chapter, not on social media, but in real life. The house at 218 Elm Street wasn't just a structure anymore. It was a symbol of everything I had sacrificed and everything they had taken for granted. But now, it stood as a crumbling testament to neglect, its roof leaking, its paint peeling, its garden overtaken by weeds. Every time I scrolled through real estate listings, the photos of the house made my chest tighten. Not out of regret, but out of clarity. This was what happened when no one stepped in to fix things anymore. No more me. I heard occasional updates from Lorraine, the elderly neighbor who'd lived next door for decades. She called one evening, her voice tinged with concern. "Oh, Hannah, I thought you should know they've listed the house again. Asking price dropped to $360,000. Samantha's moved back in full-time now, helping her parents sort through stuff." "Sort through what?" I asked absently, though I already knew. They're things, I suppose. Clothes, old furniture, boxes upon boxes. Your mom looks exhausted and Richard, well, he doesn't say much these days. I thanked her and hung up, staring at the half-empty coffee mug on my desk. Once, hearing this would have sent me rushing back, guilt propelling me forward. Now, I simply closed my laptop and went for a walk. The cool autumn air felt refreshing against my skin, a reminder that I was no longer tethered to their chaos. But chaos has a way of finding you, even when you think you've escaped it. One Saturday afternoon, I returned home after teaching a photography class to find an unfamiliar silver minivan parked outside my building. My heart sank as I approached the entrance. Sure enough, there they were, all three of them, Mom, Dad, and Samantha. They stood awkwardly near the steps, clutching folders and bags like travelers stranded in a foreign land. Mom saw me first. Her face lit up briefly before falling into a mask of desperation. Hannah, she said, stepping forward. We need to talk. I stopped a few feet away, arms crossed. You came all the way here for that? It's serious, Dad added, his voice hoarse. He looked older than I remembered, his shoulders slumped under some invisible weight. The bank is coming next week. If we don't settle the debt, they'll take the house. And whose fault is that? I asked, my tone neutral but firm. Samantha shifted uncomfortably, avoiding my gaze. It's not like we planned for this to happen. We thought someone would help. Someone meaning me? I raised an eyebrow. Funny how everyone assumes I'll always be there to clean up messes I didn't create. Mom reached out, her hands trembling slightly. Please, Hannah. Just this once. After everything you've done for us, can't you do this last thing? For the sake of the family. For the sake of the family. I repeated, incredulous. The same family that erased me from the will? That treated me like a walking ATM until I stopped being useful? You want me to save the house now? Why? So you can sell it and give the money to Samantha? Or worse, so you can keep living off me forever? No. No. Mom shook her head vehemently. It's not like that. We've learned our lesson. We promise. Promises mean nothing if actions don't follow, I said sharply. Where was this epiphany when you decided I wasn't worth including in your plans? Where was it when you posted those hateful messages online, trying to turn people against me? Silence fell between us, heavy and suffocating. The wind picked up, carrying the scent of damp leaves and distant rain. You're punishing us, Samantha whispered finally, her voice breaking, for something we didn't even mean. I'm not punishing anyone, I replied, my voice steady. I'm choosing myself. For once, I'm putting my needs above yours. And if that makes me selfish, so be it. Dad sighed deeply, rubbing his temples. You're right. We messed up. But losing the house, it's too much. Can't you see that? I see it clearly, I said, meeting his eyes. But it's not my burden to carry anymore. You wanted independence for Samantha? Fine. Let her figure out how to handle it. Let all of you figure it out. Mom's tears began to fall freely now. Hannah, please. Don't abandon us. I'm not abandoning you, I said softly. I'm letting go of the role you forced me into. I'm not the person who saves his family. Not anymore. With that, I turned and walked toward the building's entrance. They followed me, pleading, their voices rising in desperation. But I didn't stop. I climbed the stairs, unlocked my apartment door, and stepped inside. Before closing it behind me, I looked at them one last time. The only way to fix this is to take responsibility, I said firmly. And that starts with accepting that I won't do it for you. Then I shut the door. Their footsteps echoed down the hallway, fading into silence. I leaned against the door, listening to the sound of rain tapping gently against the window. For the first time in years, I felt truly at peace. The silence between us wasn't just an absence of noise, it was a chasm, wide and final. Days turned into weeks, then months. I stopped checking my phone obsessively, stopped wondering if they'd call or write. Instead, I began filling my life with things that mattered to me, things I had neglected for so long because someone else always needed my attention first. Every Monday morning, I walked into the art center, where I now taught photography to high school students. Their enthusiasm was infectious, the way their eyes lit up the first time they held a camera, the way they saw beauty in ordinary moments. One student, Mia, approached me after class one day, her voice trembling with excitement. Miss Hannah, look at this shot I took of my dog. The photo was blurry, but it didn't matter. What mattered was the joy on her face as she showed me something she was proud of. In the evenings, I attended a video editing course, a skill I dreamed of learning but always postponed, because family emergencies always came first. Now, no one needed me to fix anything, and for the first time that felt freeing. My instructor, an older man named Greg, often joked about how dedicated I was. You're going to be better than me soon, he said one night, handing back my latest project. But perhaps the most transformative part of my new life was writing. Not angry posts or defensive rants, but heartfelt reflections on breaking free from toxic relationships. I called it Choosing Yourself, Finding Freedom Beyond Family. Each entry felt like releasing a weight I carried for years. One rainy afternoon, while sipping coffee at my favorite cafe, I received a notification. Marcus, a friend who worked as a realtor, had sent me a link, price dropped by $30. 01 property at 218 Elm Street. Owner seeking urgent sale. I clicked open the listing. The house looked worse than I remember: dark roof tiles, rotting fence, peeling window frames. It struck me how quickly neglect could take hold without someone to maintain it. For years, I had been that person, keeping the cracks from spreading. Now, it stood as a crumbling testament to their inability or unwillingness to step up. I closed the tab without hesitation. That house no longer symbolized duty or expectation. It was just a structure waiting to collapse under its own weight. I tapped hide notification, set my phone aside, and smiled a soft, genuine smile. Lighter than air but deeper than any sigh I'd swallowed over the years. A few weeks later, I hosted my first photography exhibit at a local cafe. Friends, students, and strangers gathered around to admire my work. Each photo told a piece of my journey: the quiet mornings in the park, golden light spilling across empty streets, an elderly woman's thin hands cradling a warm mug. There was even a picture of a single flower lying on cracked pavement, delicate yet resilient. Afterward, a middle-aged woman approached me, tears glistening in her eyes. "I don't know why," she said softly, "but every photo of yours feels like it's speaking for someone who's been silent for a long time." Her words stayed with me long after the event ended. They reminded me that my story wasn't just mine, it resonated with others who had felt invisible, unheard, or unvalued. By winter, I booked a trip to Seattle to photograph the changing leaves. I invested in a semi-professional camera, something I once deemed an unnecessary luxury. Standing by Liberty Lake one frosty afternoon, I captured the perfect frame: a little boy running ahead, his mother trailing behind, laughing and calling out to him. As I lowered my camera, I realized something profound. Some bonds aren't meant to be clung to, they were never truly ours to begin with. Blood ties don't guarantee love, and family isn't defined by shared last names. True family is built on respect, gratitude, and mutual care. That evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting soft beams of light across the water, I finally understood. I wasn't alone. I had created a new kind of family, one rooted in self-love, creativity, and freedom. And as I packed up my gear and headed home, I whispered to myself, almost as a promise, I've learned to choose myself. And that is the greatest gift I've ever received.